Mr. Chair, and obviously I'd seek guidance from yourself and the clerks, what I would like to do is to move opposition amendment number 1 on sheet C2016-062 together with amendments 3 to 6 inclusive on sheet C2016-054 capital D.
You'll get no resistance from the table as long as leave is granted by the committee. Leave is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I formally move opposition amendment number 1 on sheet C2016-062 and opposition amendments numbers 3 to 6 inclusive on sheet C2016-054 capital D. The package of amendments together achieve a number of objectives. The first amendment, dealing with an amendation to the definition of excluded steel as it stands in the bill, addresses some of the alleged criticisms of the bill in its current form advanced by members of the government by seeking to make sure that included in the definition of excluded steel is any kind of steel not manufactured at any location in Australia, but also in relation to a particular project, steel that could not be manufactured for the purposes of that project at a reasonable cost within a reasonable time. I note that the government advanced niche steel needs and certain requirements for certain projects as being a reason why the bill in its current form was not practicable. This amendment addresses that issue comprehensively. Mr. Chair, the package of amendments includes a review of the state's infrastructure plan, which will provide indicative future demand for Australian-made steel and in infrastructure projects and set up a known pipeline of projects so that Australian steel producers can plan for the demand. Our package of amendments also provides for what I have described as a strong cop on the beat, a steel industry advocate to be appointed to ensure that new Australian standards and certification for Australian-made steel use is monitored and complied with, and it will be based in the Illawarra region of this state. Our amendments will stop different classifications of steel and low-quality imported steel from being used in publicly funded state infrastructure as far as is practicable, and the steel industry advocate will also be tasked with undertaking a major New South Wales steel and fabrication sector review focusing on the supply chain capability of the sector, coordination of innovation, research and development and investment in plant and equipment. There has been substantial criticism that steel and fabrication sector is highly fragmented, its supply chain capability is compromised and investment in plant and equipment is declining. There is substantial criticism that the steel and fabrication sector is highly fragmented, its supply chain capability is compromised and investment in plant and equipment is declining. We think there is further scope for this state to review the steel and fabrication sector regarding its supply chain capability and to improve these matters, and these are addressed in detail in the amendments. The BIS shrapnel report that I referred to in my second reading contribution, and also Mr Shoebridge referred to, has indicated that a local content policy achieving a 90% local steel content for publicly funded projects would provide a substantial net benefit to the economy, which is why we propose the 90% figure as opposed to mandating an across-the-board 100% use. Ideally, 100% would be achieved. And that's why we say in the amendments at least 90%, because we recognise that this should be the start of the journey that we can build upon, but we want to make sure that the policy framework we are putting in place can be properly bedded down and to meet the objectives for which it has been designed. The amendments together, we believe, will greatly strengthen certainty in the sector and provide a platform for investment growth and even expansion not only in steel making but throughout the whole supply chain, not only for the steel industry but for those other industries and suppliers who support the steel industry. The benefits to the manufacturing sector will fan out from Port Kembla across the west and southwest of Sydney, the Hunter region and right across the great state of New South Wales, because we recognise that although the focus is on steel production, of course steel use, there are so many individual businesses and industries that depend on a strong steel sector for their viability as well. The ripples across the economy from a failure of our steel manufacturing capability would do irreparable social and economic damage. It is important that when we're making public investment decisions that we not only focus on the best upfront price, but on what we call real value for money, which is why when Labor announced its steel plan, we said it's not only the upfront purchase price, but you've got to look at the true cost of a project across the whole life of that project to see whether or not you're not being penny wise and pound foolish. You know, you're not going for a cheaper upfront price for a product that you then have to expend many millions more patching and repairing at an earlier point in time, rather than investing a little bit more upfront but getting longer durability for public safety and real value for money. These important public policy objectives that flow from hundreds of millions and indeed billions of dollars of investment of public monies by the state and by councils, that we make sure that the investment is not only economically efficient but socially efficient as well, which is why we welcome the bill. We have constructively engaged with it. We've consulted with industry, unlike the government. We've consulted with the regional communities that depend upon this valuable industry, the trade unions representing the workforces, as well as the captains of industry and the people who live in the regions who depend upon a strong, thriving steel sector for their way of life and their longevity. Labor has long been committed to this industry and to those communities, and that won't change today. And that's why we put forward this positive suite of amendments, which we invite the House to join with us and make sure that this bill is in the most effective shape it can be to achieve the objectives which at least the non-government parties in this place appear to support. A strong, thriving steel sector.